Today, I am going to explain the movie called Voice from the Stone. Please support me and subscribe to this channel. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. At the beginning of the film, we see Malvina, who is on her deathbed at her ancestral home. She tells her adolescent son Jacob that after her death, another woman will come to take care of him. Jacob will know the woman by the love she shows to him. Malvina then asks Jacob to promise her that he will call Malvina back to him. Soon after that, Malvina dies. Then we are introduced to a young British nurse named Verena, who specializes in children's care. Verena's job is to take care of the children and make sure that they get better. It is painful for her to say goodbyes to the children she took care of, but it's a part of her job and she has to move on to take care of the other children. 7 months later, Verena arrives at Jacob's house to take care of Jacob. Since Jacob hasn't spoken since her mother died, his father Klaus has hired many English-speaking nurses in the past to take care of Jacob. Verena is the latest nurse, who is going to look after Jacob until he gets normal again. Although Verena has no degree, she says that she is loved by the children and has years of experience. Since all the nurses Klaus hired in the past couldn't make Jacob speak, Klaus is not excited by Verena's skills, but he nonetheless hires her. Soon after that, Verena goes to see Jacob and introduces herself. But Jacob doesn't say a word and is lost in his own world. Later that night, Verena joins Klaus and Jacob for dinner. She tries talking to Jacob, but he is still cold and distant. Klaus informs her that Jacob doesn't want her around and will soon ask her to leave, but Verena is sure that she can make Jacob speak again. Later that night, Jacob gets close to the stone wall in his room, as if he is trying to listen to something. The next morning, Verena begins her treatment and keeps talking to Jacob, but he doesn't show any emotion at all. Verena tells him that when she was about his age, she lost her parents. So, she knows what it feels like to lose someone and be completely alone in this world. Later, Verena goes to Jacob's room and comes across a photograph of Malvina. While looking around for Jacob, Verena comes across Lilia, a retired housemaid. Lilia is happy to see Verena and requests her to make Jacob speak again. Afterwards, Verena asks Klaus to tell her everything so that she can understand why Jacob isn't talking. Klaus reveals that Malvina got sick and her condition worsened over time. So, he went looking for help, while Jacob stayed with his mother. But by the time he returned, Malvina had taken her final breath. Soon after that, Jacob distanced himself from everyone and stopped talking. Later that night while having dinner, Klaus tells Verena that Malvina's family owned the estate for 1,200 years. Her family owned a quarry which made them a fortune. However, Malvina chose a different path and decided to become a world-famous pianist. During the Second World War, she allowed the quarry to flood, as most of the men who worked there died during the war. The next day, Verena goes to see the quarry with Jacob. There, Verena meets the estate keeper Alessio, who lights a flame every day for the long-dead quarryman. One night, Verena goes to check on Jacob and sees him with his ear to the stone wall in his room, listening. Verena tries talking to him, but he runs away. The next day when Verena tells Klaus about this, Klaus tells her that he knows. He fears that Jacob thinks he can hear his mother in the stones. Verena is shocked by this revelation and tells him that she is not qualified enough to look after the boy. Instead, Jacob should be sent to the hospital, but Klaus disagrees. Later, Verena sees Jacob on the ledge of a tall tower. She immediately rushes to rescue him and endangers her life in the process. Verena then realizes that she cares about Jacob and decides to stay to help him. Afterwards, Verena caringly explains to Jacob that the voice he hears is not real and that it is just his mind playing tricks on him. But Jacob doesn't listen to her and runs to the family mausoleum. Alessio informs Verena that 40 generations of Malvina's family are buried there. There, Jacob is sitting near his mother's tombstone, trying to listen to her voice. Verena tells Jacob that the dead don't speak and wishing to hear dead loved ones doesn't make it happen. One day, Verena tells Jacob that she cannot play the piano. So, she encourages him to do so, as he is gifted like her mother. Lilia starts visiting Verena every night and talks to her about Jacob and Malvina. She eventually develops a close relationship with Verena. The next day, Verena goes to see Klaus and learns that he is a professional sculptor. Klaus was making a sculpture of Malvina but had to stall his work after Malvina's death. Verena is becoming more attached to Jacob and tries listening to the stones, wondering if it truly speaks. While returning back, Jacob runs away and climbs up to a tree. Verena follows him and ends up tearing her skirt while climbing the tree. So afterwards, she goes to see Lilia and asks her if she can get an extra pair of clothes. So, Lilia gives her a dress of Malvina. When Klaus sees her wearing Malvina's dress, he gets angry and tells her to remove it. But after noticing the striking physical similarity between Verena and Malvina, he asks Verena to put it on. Soon after that, Klaus decides to resume working on the sculpture of Malvina. Later that night, Klaus asks Verena if she would model nude for him so that he can finish the statue. Verena is stunned by this request and doesn't know what to say. But she eventually agrees to do it, as she too wants to see the statue finished. On top of that, she hopes that this can help Jacob get better. But soon after that, Verena starts dreaming about making love to Klaus and can't stop thinking about him. One night, Verena sees Jacob listening to the stone wall in Malvina's room. Verena joins him and is shocked to hear Malvina's voice, realizing that Malvina's spirit is truly living in the stone. So, Verena promises Jacob that she will look after him. After putting him to sleep, Verena talks to the painting of Malvina and tells her that she is hurting Jacob. So she should stop talking to Jacob and let Verena take care of both Jacob and Klaus. Meanwhile, Klaus is still working on the statue and is going to finish it soon. Jacob eventually gets close to Verena and starts spending more time with her. Later that night, Verena goes to see Klaus, who is still working on the statue. After he finishes his work on the statue, Verena makes love to Klaus. But later, Klaus feels guilty, as he thinks he cheated on Malvina. So he decides to fire Verena since Jacob still isn't speaking. Verena tells him that Malvina wants her there so that she can take care of Jacob and Klaus. She also tells him that she heard Malvin's voice in the stone. But Klaus doesn't believe her and thinks that she has gone mad. Verena begs him not to send her away, but Klaus has made up his mind. So Verena goes to Jacob's room and tries talking to Malvina through the stone wall but doesn't get any response. So she takes Jacob to Malvina's tomb and tells him that they need to help Malvina. She begs Jacob to speak again so that she will not be sent away. But Jacob refuses to speak and runs away. Verena goes after him and pleads him to speak. She gets so desperate that she even slaps him. Verena realizes that she is suffering from the same fever Malvina had. So she decides to leave immediately, as she thinks Malvina is trying to make her sick. But Klaus stops Verena and begs her to stay, saying that he and Jacob need her in their lives. Verena is confused and tells Klaus that she wants to see Lilia. But Klaus informs her that Lilia committed suicide on the day of Malvina's death. Verena is horrified by this revelation and decides to leave the estate immediately. But as she flees the house, she feels dizzy and collapses on the ground. She is then carried back to Malvina's bedroom. Verena doesn't want to be in that room, but Alessio says that it's best for her. Klaus then leaves to get a doctor, as Verena's condition is worsening. In her fevered state, she has numerous hallucinations. She sees that Alessio is entombing her alive. Inside the tomb, she sees Malvina lying next to her, who then runs her hand over Verena's face and body. The next morning, Verena wakes up and has seemingly recovered from the fever. She then goes straight to see Jacob. Jacob finally speaks and says that he misses his mother. Verena then replies, "I am right here." Jacob is finally smiling again and hugs his father. Verena then says through a voiceover, "I hardly know the woman I see. We are, none of us, quite who we were." Verena is now playing the piano flawlessly and Jacob is happy to be with her. It turns out that when Verena was hallucinating about being entombed alongside Malvina, Malvina must have passed on her memories and feelings to Verena. This is why Verena still vaguely remembers her past, and yet can play the piano flawlessly, which she couldn't a while ago. Soon after that, Klaus seals off the broken walls, indicating that they have moved on and Malvina's spirit is finally at peace. This movie ends here. Thanks for watching.